Thomas Joseph Schomp was born on November 16, 1956 in Teaneck, New Jersey. He is the oldest of 7 with 5 younger brothers and 1 younger sister. He served in the military for 22 years alongside one of his brothers, and his father also served in the military during the Korean War.
Growing up in the 1960s and being the eldest of 7 was fun for Mr. Schomp. There was never a dull moment in his life. He was interested in motorcycles and cooking. He cooked for 4 years and even volunteered at his town's fire company and cooked for the firefighters. He realized he couldn't see himself cooking for the rest of his life and searched for something else. While at the fire company, Mr. Schomp met a man named Robert Evans. He was a volunteer firefighter and Navy recruiter. Some of the firefighters, including Mr. Schomp, started talking to Mr. Evans about the Navy. It offered a lot of educational opportunities and a chance to see places. The biggest thing for Thomas was to serve his country. Soon, a group of them joined the Navy with Mr. Schomp.
Boot camp was pretty intensive. That was a rude awakening, especially that first morning after getting there. The company commanders, the guys that were in charge of us while we were going through boot camp, came in and it was just like on TV. They came in kicking garbage cans, making a bunch of noise, yelling and screaming, get up, move it, you know, move your bleeps, you know, that type of thing. So, yeah, it was pretty intense.
When training was over, Mr. Schomp went to the USS Constellation, outside of San Diego. The ship was an aircraft carrier. His duty on the ship was to be a burner man. He was to put in and take out burners to produce steam for the engines. While on board, Mr. Schomp was in a newspaper story about a funny picture and a funny story to lighten up being on a deployment.
I see you in that picture there.
That was on board the USS Constellation. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is Master Chief Creech. Master Chief Creech was probably all of 4 foot nothing. And being 6'8", 6'9", there's a little bit of difference in height. And of course, you know, the overhead was a little low, and you can see it's kind of causing me to bend over and look down on him. And it was just a, I don't know, just a story, a funny picture, just to lighten up, like being on a cruise that was taken during that time frame.
After Mr. Schomp's deployment on the Constellation, he became a top watch on the USS Kitty Hawk. That meant that he would oversee the sailors working for him. He would keep in contact with the engineering officer who would tell him what was expected of him. On board the Kitty Hawk, while participating in war games with Japan, a Russian submarine struck one side of the ship, leaving a 70-foot-long gash.
We were on the USS Kitty Hawk and playing war games. And late one night, we actually had a Russian submarine. I won't say surface, but it came up too near the surface and collided with us, or is what they said. But we ended up with a, I think it was like a 70-foot gash in our hull on the forward starboard side. And in that gash, when we got back into the Philippines, they found a piece of the Russian submarine's propeller. And of course I got sent off for analysis and whatnot by the Navy Department, but we got to keep a piece of it, and they made a plaque out of it, and they kept it on, I'm going to say it was where the quarterdeck was. They had a glass case that had, you know, all the ship's awards.
When Mr. Schomp was done serving on board the Kitty Hawk, he went to Fleet Training Center San Diego and then to the USS Wasp. The Wasp was a new ship and had not yet been commissioned, so Mr. Schomp got to be a part of the celebration. There were several people who gave speeches, retirees and veterans that served on the previous ships. The ship's whistle would blow and the radars would start going as the crew would board the ship. It was pretty impressive. Part of commissioning for the ship was being subject to a lot of tests, one being shock trials.
A tug would tow basically a 10,000-pound bomb in the water. And we did the shock trial 3 times, where they started out so far, and then the next one was closer, and then the last one was close enough that the spray from the explosion, the detonation, was basically washing the ship over with spray from the explosion. And it's just like it is in the movies, where you would hear a click, and then all of a sudden it's just like an explosion, and as soon as you heard the explosion, the ship was rocking, everything was swaying, dust was coming down out of the overhead. It was a real eye-opener.
Out of all the places you've been, what was your favorite?
In Fremantle, Australia, and the reason why it was the favorite there was because I went into one of the local establishments and got to talking with some of the old-timers that were there, and they started with their, if it wasn't for you Yanks in WW2, we'd be speaking Japanese and this, that, and the other thing. So they were really appreciative of, the military. The people of Australia were, it was just unreal.
During his Navy career, Mr. Schomp achieved the rank of Chief Petty Officer E7. To get this rank, he had to go through testing and go in front of a review board that would look at his past commands and evaluate whether or not he was deserving of the rank.
They have an initiation where I had to dress up as the Jolly Green Giant. So I had an outfit on. I was like a cross between a Jolly Green Giant and an elf. We just had a little bag with pixie dust, sparkly stuff that was blowing at the guys. It was just,
Also, throughout his Navy career, Mr. Schomp received various awards. His awards include Good Conduct Awards, Engineering Award, Navy Achievement, several from Navy Expeditionary, Asia Campaign, and Southeast Asia.
While he was away, Thomas missed his family. He would keep in contact through letters, phone calls, and email. When his ship would dock, he didn't always have someone on the pier waiting for him, like he would have liked to have. It was very easy for him to adjust to different living styles. His family is proud of him for serving his country. No regrets from Thomas about his Navy experience of 22 years. He hasn't kept in touch with old friends much, but he's a part of the VFW. He wouldn't change a thing and is glad to have served his country. We would like to thank you, Mr. Schomp, for your 22 years in the U.S. Navy.